You're listening to the Digital Barbell Podcast. Our mission is to provide you with a clear path to health and fitness through education, coaching, and accountability. We are your hosts, Jonathan and Blakely Fletcher, and we are here to serve you. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe to this podcast and leave us a 5-star review so that we can reach more people. You can find us daily on Instagram and Facebook at Digital Barbell. Now, let's get to today's topic. All right, I'm excited for this podcast. This is going to be about our 3-part approach to our training philosophy. But before we get into that, I want to thank our sponsors. Today, we're sponsored by flavored water, like these little packets that you add to water. More specifically, we just finished up a long argument about how much these things should cost and whether we should be putting $1 worth of flavor into water. So yeah, that led us down a rabbit hole there. For anybody anyone who thinks that we don't argue. Also, this episode is sponsored by patchouli. The smell of old women everywhere.
I blame the face masks. You can't smell anything in
Why
stores.
don't you tell the story?
I've had this really old, just body spray from Arbonne, and they don't even make it anymore. They haven't made it for 3 years, and it's getting down to the very end. So I went in to the local co-op, bought the flavored water packets, which were just samples, for $1 a piece. When you buy the whole tub, they end up to be only 33 cents a piece. But anyway, I was just trying the flavors, and this body spray replacement, $8.99, by the way. It's not like it was a killer expense, but it was lavender, lemon, and patchouli, which I thought smelled like something else, but it does not. It's still in the house. It's I've already showered, and it's still in my hair.
Yeah,
it's very strong.
Patchouli's
I don't know
gross. It just smells like an old lady.
I've never smelled an old lady smell like that. I don't know what it is.
So
anyway,
it was only $8.99, but we only used it once, so it still was a bad deal.
But you have to wear the face mask in the store, and they also have a sign that says you can't smell any of the things. So I'm just going on look of what the bottle looks like.
It's like buying wine. You have to just look at the label and this looks good. I bet this tastes
I thought
good.
It was good.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. So let's move on past the patchouli. So if you've ever seen our content on social media, we try to put some stuff about what we're actually doing physically to prove that we do exercise. So maybe you've been confused as to why maybe all on the same day we're doing heavy deadlifts and bicep curls and burpees all on the same day. So we're going to explain how that all came to be here as we talk about our training philosophy.
So today's episode is about our 3-part training philosophy, how it came to be through naturally over the past 10 years through the education, the research, training others and training ourselves, and how we kind of stumbled into this thing that actually really works. All
right, so a quick outline of what those 3 things are is we incorporate CrossFit style conditioning into our workouts to get the cardiovascular benefits and the mental toughness side of it and the functional fitness side of it. We incorporate strength training, which is mostly done with barbells or heavy dumbbells to gradually get us stronger and stronger. And we incorporate functional bodybuilding movements to balance out joint health, muscle size, and let's be honest, to achieve certain physical goals from a looks perspective too. So those are the 3 main components, and we'll go into each of them, how we came across them and what we like about each and how we combine them. Yep. So before we get into that though, just a really quick kind of history as to our own personal exercise and sport history. I didn't really do anything physical growing up other than pick up basketball with friends in junior high. I was on the 9th grade basketball team in junior high. I didn't play at all, was not as good as everybody else. I went through a season of football practice in the summer in Florida, like where you do the two-a-days. I saw my best friend tear his ACL during those practices, and that was enough for me. I did not continue on to the actual regular season, but I wasn't very good at it anyway. I'm pretty naturally athletic, but just not like, you know, as good as most people. So
That's good.
I can do a little bit of everything. So as far as after that, I didn't really do anything physical. My weight kept increasing. I became probably borderline obese. I was about 200 pounds in my early to mid 20s. When Blakely would do physical things and go to the gym, sometimes I would go and just walk on the treadmill, watch the news. But that was pretty much the extent of it. My health was not a priority, didn't do much physical activity, and that was it until about 10 years ago in my early 30s. So, and we'll get into what changed after that as we go through our story. But that's about my history. What about you?
I actually grew up doing a lot of sports. I grew up in Louisiana, and the first thing I did in elementary school was a jump rope team, which was a big deal there. We would travel around, get out of school, and perform for like nursing homes and things like that. We did little routines, and then my group was in the Guinness Book of World Records. We went to a summer camp, and it was like 166 people jumped the same rope so many times, and we got a little plaque for it. It was pretty cool.
Famous.
And then in the summers, I did competitive kneeboarding. So if you don't know what that is, it's like water skiing, but you're on a board on your knees. And in the competition, you did a slalom course, you did a tricks course, and then you did like a turn or a flip course. And it was like all weekend. And basically like from like 8 to like into high school, that was like what I did. And my family, we didn't do on vacations. They just took me around to tournaments all summer long. But it was a really fun time for all of us, I think.
What about after that time?
So I actually quit doing that when I got into high school because I wanted to do more like high school sports. We had moved to Texas. So in high school, I was on the swim team, soccer team, and then on the swim team, they forced you to do water polo as an off-season sport to stay in shape. So those three. And then, you know, I just like a lot of people, I think like once you get out of that organized sports age, you kind of just don't know what to do. And I was lost after that, like through college and after college, I didn't really have anything to do. I would go with like some of my friends, like group classes, but nothing ever stuck. I did like, you know, kickboxing and all those weird little things that were going on, but I didn't like have a schedule and I wasn't committed to anything and that I wasn't passionate about anything until we moved to Tennessee in 2009. And we had heard CrossFit was like under the radar type of thing. It was starting to come out that there was a CrossFit gym right down from our house and we joined it. And I mean, it was immediate to me and I think to you too. Like, it was something I was excited to go do every day. We were friends with the owner. We were friends with the people there. You know, we kind of got immersed in the community immediately, which was a great way to meet people when we first moved there. And to me, it brought me back to that competitive side. Like when you do CrossFit, you get a score at the end, you get a time or a rep count. And there was something about that like competitive thing every day.
Something about
beating Jonathan. And it was hard. It was like I was nervous before we went, you know, I was checking the workout the night before and I was nervous, but every day I was happy that I had done it. So I knew there was something like changing in me every time I did it, even though it was hard, even though it was something I was like daily nervous about. Mm-hmm. So something about it drew me in. So that's kind of where we start with our CrossFit side of our training is, you know, we found it in 2009. We basically just for that year, we lived in Tennessee for a year and we just went, you know, 5-6 times a week to that gym and just went together and it was a great time. And then when we moved back to Texas in 2010, I just immersed myself in getting education through CrossFit. I got my level 1 certification so I could start coaching others. And I just tried to do a lot of the different trainings that they offer to get as much education as I could within CrossFit.
And you started eventually coaching other people.
Yeah, I started coaching people at Rice and then another gym.
So it was kind of like an evolution of doing it and coaching other people where we started to learn kind of the things about it that we really liked and maybe some of the things about it that we didn't really like.
Right.
So some of the things that we really liked were you get an amazing conditioning effect out of it, meaning like you're training in a lot of different ways, you know, short intense workouts, longer, less intense workouts.
Yeah.
And you're kind of hitting these three main points of CrossFit, which are...
So the 3 main points of CrossFit are the constantly varied, where the workout changes daily. So you're changing the time domain, you're changing like what you're doing, gymnastics, running, weightlifting, you're changing, is it a heavy load, is it a light load, and you're changing that throughout like a, you know, say like a 10 or 12 day calendar. You're doing functional movements, which functional movements are things that you need in everyday life. So you need to be able to squat down properly. You need to be able to pick something off the ground without hurting yourself. You need to be able to push yourself up off the floor, pull up onto something if you need to. So these are all things that like relate to our everyday life. And then the last piece was the high intensity. And so that's like where the magic really happens in these CrossFit workouts. So those are definitely the pieces that we saw and that we've brought into our own when we train others.
One thing about high intensity is a relative concept, both from person to person and in the same person over time. So you're, you know, what's intense to me might not be intense to Blakely, and what's intense to me today might not be what's intense to me in a year from now, because you get fitter and fitter as you exercise. And you know, an Olympic level athlete doesn't need the same amount of intensity as a grandma who's just starting to exercise. So
that's
it's something that can be scaled across a lot of different people.
Yeah, there's always a point, like they say, a saying, like you can have like from elite athletes to grandmas working out doing the same workout and moving in the same intensity relative to them.
Right.
So everything you can scale, and that's we use a lot of that. Like the scalability of it is just amazing. Like the same workout, the same stimulus, scale to your abilities.
Yeah. So in our own training philosophy from CrossFit, we pull out that we're training functional movements. We're doing them in a variety that, you know, gets you fit for life. And we bring it with different kinds of intensity to train your energy system so that you have more energy throughout the day and you can accomplish hard things.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it is a mental side, right?
The mental side is huge. And that's like where we get a lot of feedback from clients about like feeling mentally stronger, feeling more confident. And it's weird, like I don't just program burpees for burpees' sake, you know, like it's not just like it's something about doing these workouts every day, suffering just a little, putting yourself through something that's hard, and then coming out better on the other side of it makes you mentally stronger. And I've personally seen that in myself over the years of doing this. Like I was very shy growing up. Like even my mom still to this day is like, I can't believe you ever ran a gym and were able to like talk in front of people, because I was very shy. And I do believe that doing this really made me more mentally strong. Not just physically strong, but mentally strong.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. So you mentioned, you know, doing these intense workouts. So that's one of the things that we should address, that we think that doing CrossFit intense workouts every day of the week is not optimal, and it's one of the reasons that we scale back the frequency of these intense workouts than if you were just to go to a CrossFit gym and that's all you did, right?
Yeah, so I would say like, you know, we took from all the training I did with CrossFit, and we took like a ton of the pieces, but one of the things we didn't take is like doing it every single day. So we find that
why is that? Why not do it every day?
I mean, it really depends on your goal. Some people do it every day and they're fine, but it just depends on your goal. So we work with a lot of just like your general population people, and you don't, and it wears your body down if you just work out that intensely every day. So combining it with the other elements that we've combined it with really does create a good training program that you can sustain, hopefully be injury free and sustain for years and years and years and years and years down the road.
Yeah. One other thing about CrossFit that we don't necessarily bring into our own philosophy is some of the higher risk type barbell movements done, you know, in a fast way. Like, there's certain exercises that have a risk reward ratio that we're like, that's better left out of most people's training just for general health. Save that for the more elite people.
Or in
a more controlled environment.
In a more controlled environment, you know, like something like an overhead squat or a snatch. I definitely coached it in person at my gym, but without being able to like put my eyes on you when you're doing it, I probably don't program some of those things that I'm, would rather be there in person for.
Right. So in our philosophy, we do these more intense workouts somewhere between 2 and 3 times per week generally, right?
Yeah.
Of varying time domains.
Yeah. Even in our own personal training, we do that. And we found that to be more beneficial for ourselves.
Yeah, we learned that through experience for sure. Okay. Do you feel like that's kind of, we pulled out the best and from CrossFit that we incorporated?
I mean, so basically, like, just to kind of recap it, like we, from 2009 on, we've been doing it ourselves. I owned a gym in 2000, started opening a gym in 2015 and training others, and it's just been like we said, like years of like training others and like getting my hands on all the education that I could get that allowed us to like see the benefits of this program and use them, and then also like leave out some of the things that we didn't want to bring in.
Yep, that's the idea.
Yeah. So, as we're going through this process and as I was getting all this education, I decided to also go down like the strength road, and I wanted to get a certification in strength. So there was a starting strength seminar going to be in Wichita Falls, Texas. We were living in Houston, Texas. And starting strength is a method that trains the squat, the deadlift, the overhead press, the bench press, and the power clean exclusively. And they do it, he's become popular doing it with novices, people who are just starting out. It's literally starting usually from like learning how to do lifts on a barbell and then just ramping up and getting strong using a linear progression. So they use a progression where they do 3 sets of 5 reps at the same weight, add 5 pounds next time if you made your lifts and your form was perfect, and then just go. So I was going to go take this certification, and there was a freak snowstorm in Texas. And
Ice storm.
And Jonathan decided to drive with me to go. So he actually ended up taking the seminar too. So we attended that. You want to talk about that seminar?
Yeah, it was up in North Texas at Mark Ripetoe's gym, and just to go back a little bit on starting strength, Mark Ripetoe wrote a book called Starting Strength where he talks about the physics behind all the lifts and the philosophy behind how the body adapts and all this, a lot of scientific stuff, but he does this certification where you can learn to coach the method and learn how to do the lifts in his way. So that's what the point of the seminar was. His gym is 1970s, all the oldest equipment you can imagine, a lot of homemade equipment, benches covered in car upholstery, just really old school, but a really cool environment.
A pretty intimidating environment, honestly.
Yeah,
he's like a character himself. He's a pretty intimidating guy. There's one part in the seminar where you, like, after each lift, you've gone out with like little breakout groups, and you like learn how to both do the lift and coach the lift. Like, they're all about like how you coach the lift, and you have to like perform it in front of him. He just walks around and it's like everybody's like on the edge. And if you don't go exactly when he looks at you, it's almost like, it reminds me of like the soup Nazi in Seinfeld, like, nope, out. And it was just like so intimidating, like 5 reps now, and you had to do your 5 reps, and he gave you critiques or not. And like, I remember one time he didn't say anything, and the guy next to me, one of his coaches, was like, when Mark doesn't say anything, it's a good thing.
That's
and
a
I was
good
like,
thing.
oh gosh, I was so nervous.
Yeah, but it was definitely a turning point, I think, in both of our lives as far as realizing the importance of strength, and the big takeaway when we got back home, how to implement this in our own life. I remember he said to me, I was like probably 160 pounds and pretty, I guess you would say, scrawny at that time. I had been doing CrossFit since 2009 and had definitely gotten stronger, but never spent any time actually doing a strength training program. So he saw me at 160 pounds. He's like, boy, you need to weigh 200 pounds by the end of the weekend or she's going to leave you. And I did not end up gaining 40 pounds over the weekend, but she's still with me. And but it was a big thing. Like, it planted the seed for strength and the ability that I might have had. And when we got back, we actually built out our garage to start training people in the garage, and I started following the beginner program that we had learned at the certification, and I got significantly stronger over a 3 or 4 month period using
Yeah.
using the program.
So the one thing about the program is that it is like you do exclusively just those lifts. You do nothing else.
Mhm.
You just squat. Like one day you squat, you press, you deadlift. You rest the next day. The next day you squat, you bench press, you deadlift. You rest the next day. So you do it 3 times a week. You do nothing else.
You don't do any conditioning.
No conditioning.
Nothing.
And I think there's a set of chin-ups in there. That's literally the only other thing you can do. And
you drink a gallon of milk between sets. Because part of getting stronger is gaining weight.
Weight. So yeah, so it was a big difference, honestly, going to this certification versus like a lot of the CrossFit things. When you go to a lot of the CrossFit ones, everybody's like, looks like lean mean fight machines. Like when you go to the starting strength,
it was like lean mean eating machines.
It was like people were bringing in giant pizzas for lunch. Like, I mean, it was just a different type of person in there. So anyway, so it's all about like doing your lift, resting, and eating as much as you can.
Right.
And what we found is that it really does work, especially for a novice trainee. Like you can really make some progress. But your typical person is going to find it kind of boring. Like that, they might want to do something else. You know, they might not want to put on that much extra weight just to get strength. But in Jonathan's case, he was, he's like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna, get stronger. And it was really cool. Like he said, we were training people in our garage, and you stuck to the program. And over less than a 4-month period, he went from squatting 3 sets of 5 reps at 185 to squatting 3 sets of 5 reps at 300 pounds. And it was really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was definitely a mental boost for me.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea that I was capable of lifting those kinds of weights. And I'm not trying to say I'm some high caliber athlete, but I had gotten significantly stronger, and it really made me feel like I was capable of more things than I thought I was. So there was a lot of benefit as far as that goes.
Yeah, and so the people that we were training were like friends of mine from when I had worked at Rice and worked out there and coached there, and they would come over in the evenings and work out with us, and they were all taking notice. They were watching Jonathan be dedicated to this program and seeing him actually get stronger in the process. And it was pretty fun. The day he was going to try for the 3x5, a bunch of people came over, and people brought like party poppers and things to celebrate with. And I mean, how long it takes you, 40 minutes to do 3 sets of 5 because you have to rest so much. It's a long process. So everybody was like hanging around, is he going to get it? And then he gets it, and all these little poppers go off. It was really fun.
And the people that we were training at that time in the garage, started incorporating this strength training into their workouts, and watching those people get stronger at the same time.
Yeah, so at this point now, we're having friends come over and ourselves, and we're doing a strength set, and then we're doing a little CrossFit conditioning. So we've combined 2 elements so far, and we're like, okay, this is good, this is working. And like combining the best of both is really like a fun workout. We're all having fun, and we're all like getting stronger, we're getting healthier. And so then
so I would say, the main takeaways from strength training, because we talked about the main takeaways that we incorporate from CrossFit are there's ways for beginners to rapidly get stronger through a linear strength progression, coached in the ways that we coach the lifts. People can do a lot more than they think they can as far as that's concerned. But then there's some parts of it that are kind of boring and that people don't really want. Typically people don't want to put on a lot of weight. I saw, I gained significant fat during that time because of the way that I was eating. So, and it's kind of boring if that's all you're doing. I mean, who gets super excited? The only thing you have to look forward to that day is putting 5 more pounds on the bar. That only lasts for so long, both the actual process and the excitement of it. So we found a way to pull out the parts that we like and not do so much of it that is completely boring. Right. So that's kind of the main takeaway from that strength training that we incorporated in.
Yeah.
So towards the tail end of my linear progression in strength, I had an injury. I actually tore my glute. It was just kind of a freak thing. I don't know why it happened, but it was apparent that I was not going to be able to squat or deadlift any heavy weight for a period of time. So there's people coming over to our house training 3 or 4 times a week at this point. I'm not just going to sit there and do nothing. I remember that Blakely's brother had actually personal trained people for a while, a couple years prior to this, and he actually had gotten kind of bit by the bodybuilding bug and knew a lot about it. So I met up with him, talked with him about some things, did some research on my own, ended up building my own bodybuilding program to do while other people were coming over doing the combination of the other stuff. So I started that and started to see a lot of progress in that, because there's still a lot of exercises you can do that don't involve your glute with some dumbbells and barbells and bands. So I followed that for several months and was really seeing progress both in strength in those muscle groups that I was changing. I was seeing, training, I was seeing changes in my physique and in the actual size of my muscles. So like, oh, there's something to this.
Yeah.
And other people
started taking notice again.
People started incorporating that into the things they were doing in the garage.
Yeah,
we were helping guide them during this process, not where they just came in and did their own thing. But so anyways, we started to say, all right, well, maybe there's something to combining this into the whole thing. And then eventually my glute healed and I was able to start doing all the strength training movements again. And then kind of all of us were putting all this stuff together over the process in the garage.
So this all was going on between like 2013 and 2015. 2013 when we went to the seminar and then started strength training, and then through that. So for about a 2-year span, friends were coming over, working out, and like, so by this point they're coming over, they're doing a strength lift, they're doing, some curls, some triceps, and then we're doing a little CrossFit workout at the end. So we're really getting to see the benefits of all three of these things put together and in action on a group of people. And then at this time I had opened my CrossFit gym, and we kind of transitioned the garage people. We were coming over to the gym now and kind of doing the same things. Like after the gym hours, we'd all do our little workout and incorporate all three. And then eventually I started to incorporate it into the CrossFit gym itself. And we would have, weightlifting Wednesdays, and my members, just got so on board with it. They were naming these things, like if it's Wednesday and we're not lifting, like what are we doing? We have to be doing the weightlifting on Wednesdays, and Thursdays were flex with fletch. Like Jonathan led a class in the afternoon just based on bodybuilding, and people really loved it. And, then the rest of the days were CrossFit style workouts. And so
I didn't really think about this till you just mentioned it, but I can remember like people would hang around after the Saturday classes and I would do my own workout, and then I would start doing the bodybuilding part of my training, and then some people would just kind of join in. I can remember like groups of like 3 and 4, mostly females, actually kind of like doing some dumbbell rows and some tricep extensions and curls, like, and they were really enjoying doing that stuff too. I kind of forgot about that.
So that was a lot of fun, and it was cool to get to like kind of organically find all of these pieces through our own, like I said, education and experience, and some, injuries led us to that way. And then to really take the best of all three of these pieces that we had learned and really put them in play on both our friends and the members of my gym, and really get to see that it's really a good program.
Yeah. So you want to just kind of summarize the best parts of each thing that we pull?
Yeah, so for, the first thing we kind of discovered was the CrossFit style workouts. And from there, we're getting the constantly varied piece. We're getting the functional movement piece, which is really important. We're getting that high intensity piece. And the biggest piece we're getting there is that mental toughness, I think, is that you're just getting more mentally strong as well as physically strong. From the strength training, we're getting the linear progressions. We're both learned how to coach those lifts, and that this linear progression truly does work. And it can work with a combination of all of these things, even if they're not done in such high doses.
Yeah. And from the strength training, you're getting full body strength, you're getting increased bone density, increased muscle mass, and also a healthy dose of confidence that you're capable of doing these kinds of things too. No matter what the weight you're doing is, it's relative to you. Right.
And right now a lot of people are doing it with dumbbells, and they're getting the benefits, from the dumbbells because of the lack of barbells available right now. And then the bodybuilding side.
From the bodybuilding side, we get, increased joint health through strengthening the muscles and tendons. We get increase in the muscles that we don't necessarily train doing the other things, like squats, deadlifts, bench press and stuff aren't necessarily hitting your biceps, so we get more balance through doing some of the more isolation exercises, and we get just an increase in muscle cross-sectional size overall. So you're building a more balanced physique than if you were just doing one of the other two things by itself. And there's a big correlation in keeping your muscle mass high as you get older too. So it all just adds up to increased muscle mass through all the bodybuilding stuff.
And it's been funny to see how this has really become a mainstream thing. It used to be very like separate, like you did CrossFit or you did strength training or you did functional bodybuilding. And now in so many gyms and so many like training arenas, they're combining them.
But I do want to say that even though we think a lot of people can benefit from including all three of these things into their training in the right dosage, there are times and there are people who should just spend time dedicated to getting stronger. That's why we have a strength training program called Build, because a lot of people can benefit from that, or people have previous experiences or certain goals. So there are times for that. And so, and when we work with people on a custom program, we can look at what their goal is, look at the equipment they have available, and we can decide how we're going to incorporate all three of these things to get them what we feel like are the best results, but also in a way that like moves them towards the goal that they have. So,
I want to speak just a little bit more about the mental toughness side, because I think that's such an important piece, unless you have anything else.
No, go ahead.
I just think like I was saying, I've seen it change. I've seen it change in myself, and I've seen it change in others that I've trained. And really what I mean by that is just like when there's something about, like I said, suffering each day just a little bit, and in doing something that you don't think you're capable of, that you might be nervous to do, and then get onto the other side of that, knowing that you did it, and do that on repeat every day. And there's something very special about that. And like, so many people now are training alone in their homes. They're training in their basements or their garages or in their living rooms. And I personally know how tough that is, and how much mental toughness that takes just to get yourself to go down and to get into that gym space, whatever gym space you've created, and start your workout. Like I went from, Jonathan and I worked out together in Tennessee, and then I had a little group of people that I worked out with when I worked at Rice for 2 to 3 years. And, I was like on top of the world then. I felt like, in my workout game. And then when I started coaching others and working for gyms and then owning a gym, I didn't have time to work out with others. I worked out alone when the gym was closed. And it really it was a tough battle to get out there and do it, and to push myself alone. And so I kind of understand what you guys are going through in that, and I'm really proud of everybody who goes out there and does it every day, because I know that it's a hard thing to do, but I know that in the end you end up stronger because of it, not just physically but also mentally.
I couldn't agree more with that. There's just something about exposing yourself to hard things that makes you a stronger person in all different parts of your life. Makes you, with so much uncertainty in the world right now, if you feel physically capable and mentally capable, you're in a much better place to be less afraid. And even feel like you don't need to have control over everything, because you're kind of ready for anything. So
for sure.
Cool. Well, I think this has been good. I hope people kind of understand our approach and kind of what you're looking at when you see some of the things that we're doing. I know our custom training clients and the clients going through Body certainly know how this works in real life, because they're doing it all the time, whether they know it or not. So check out our programs that we have to offer on our website. Reach out to us if you ever have any questions. We're here to answer questions. And we appreciate you guys listening and for all your support. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all for listening. We truly appreciate it. But real quick, before we go, do us a favor and subscribe to this podcast. Leave us a 5-star review, and be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook to get the latest and greatest content. Have a great day.